Since Monday, authorities have recovered suspicious packages sent to 9 people containing explosive devices meant for prominent American liberals. A trail of pipe bombs on the East Coast and, in one occasion, the West Coast have targeted former presidents, administration officials, an actor, and a billionaire, all tied in some way to the Democratic Party. And they are also known to be vocal Trump critics. Hi, I'm Michael Wan, your host for Michael Wan's Op-Ed Live, and this is LA County Assessor Jeffrey Prang, who is aiming to get elected in the runoff this November. Our show, Op-Ed Live, is not about left or right, it's about right or wrong. So, Jeffrey, before the show, how's your campaign going?
I think the campaign is going well. We're working very hard. I'm crisscrossing LA County from Lancaster to Long Beach, from Calabasas to Claremont, talking to voters about the progress we've made to ensure that property values are fair and accurate. We're helping people save money on their property taxes. Last year, $600 million alone for homeowners and veterans and seniors and small businesses. And I think when the voters have an opportunity to hear the work that we've done, that they will re-elect me on November 6th. At least I hope so.
We are only like 12 days out, right?
Just about 12 days out. Campaign seasons are long and hard, and I'll be glad when it's over.
Yeah, and I think many in the mainstream, they gave you credit for rooting out all the corruption that had happened in the assessment assessor office.
As you and the viewers know, that my predecessor has been arrested and indicted and is awaiting trial for political corruption. So we had a lot of work to do to restore public confidence, and I think we've done that.
Is that the single biggest corruption that happened in the assessor's office, in your opinion?
To the best of my knowledge, it has been. But all those people who are associated with that are gone. We put in new security measures to prevent further abuse. Brought in new skilled managers to help reform the office. And probably the best testament to how we're doing was last year. The International Association of Assessing Officers, that's like the trade organization for government appraisal agencies, gave us their highest award, the Certificate of Excellence in Assessment Administration, a very difficult award to receive. We're the only California county ever to receive it. And I think that the public can feel assured that this is a department that has integrity and one that they can be confident in.
We also had you on page 2 recently. I think you had a great, the piece had great responses. So
I saw that. Thank you so much.
And good luck on your campaign.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so what say you regarding this pipe bomb issue?
It is extremely alarming. I mean, it speaks terribly to the continued polarization of politics in this country. I am hoping that it is not a sign of things to come, that people get so angry with the people that they disagree with that they're willing to commit violence. We don't know a whole lot right now. It's conspicuous who they chose to send it to, and as you can see from the photo that was sent, they claimed it was from W. Wasserman Schultz, the former chair of the Democratic National Committee.
Currently a congresswoman, right?
Current congressmember from Florida. It's really disconcerting. Thank goodness that nobody was hurt.
Yeah, you're right. Like you said, thank goodness that nobody was hurt, and thank goodness that the bomb did not detonate, right?
Right.
So some people are saying that is kind of funny. How come they sent out 9 or 10? It's 9, right? So far, nine bombs were sent, but none of them got detonated. So it seems like this crazy guy, whatever psycho this guy is, guy or girl, we don't know so far, but probably he just planned to scare people. What do you think about that?
It could be. I don't know anything about the device. I'm not a bomb expert. I don't know anything about the devices. I don't know if they were required to be opened in order. The little bit I heard is that they were suspicious packages when they came in, so they responded to them as suspicious packages. If it had been delivered and somebody tried to open it, maybe the detonator would have gone off. I don't know.
And I think a former Secret Service member named Dan Bongino, I don't know whether you know him or not.
No.
Dan Bongino said he studied these bombs, he saw it, and said it seems like it's either somebody who really don't know how to make a bomb or somebody who purposely tried to look that way. So we don't know so far. It seems like it's do you think this might have some kind of an impact for the upcoming midterm election, or this is just a bump in the road?
I think it's, my sense is it's just a bump in the road. I think that everybody's trying to tie it to the election because they're looking for anything that will give,
it became a political issue.
Give an edge. So, the Democratic position is that it's not surprising that somebody would try to harm somebody because the president and his allies use a lot of violence and aggressive talk in the way that they describe opponents as being evil, and they're ratcheting things up that would cause somebody to ratchet up even further. And so I think most people responded appropriately by condemning it, which is the only response that's appropriate.
Yeah. I think President Trump also condemned anybody who is trying to use violence to just emphasize on what's going on. I believe whoever this is, we got to track down this guy, this guy or girl, and bring him to prison. That's how it's supposed to be. And whatever political differences we have, or the left or the right have, I think there should be no room for violence. That's how I see it.
Absolutely.
But there has been, on the rhetoric side, it had gone to territories where it has not been before. Do you agree with that? Especially with, I believe this whole Trump era is, I don't see it more like Trump versus Democrats. I see it more like Trump versus the mainstream media. It's like he always criticized the mainstream media always criticized. If you turn on CNN right now, I bet they are criticizing Trump at this moment as we speak, or MSNBC. So it became more like a media versus Trump war, to me. How do you see that?
He's been particularly critical of mainstream media as well as Democrats. He is, I've been very disturbed and alarmed by his attack on the mainstream media because he sees them as being biased in a way that I do not. They report on his conduct and what he says, and it's critical, but I would criticize it too because I think he says some pretty terrible things, and he doesn't like criticism, and so he says if you criticize him, it's fake news, and so he's Trump is somebody who very clearly prefers praise, and he is very thin-skinned and responds negatively to criticism. And the mainstream media's job isn't to praise or to criticize; it's to present the news.
But Jeffrey, as you know, I've been covering politics for quite a while. I've been always following politics since probably late '90s, I would say. Pretty closely, and I would say I've never seen the mainstream media criticize former President Obama. Or I do remember them criticizing George W. Bush a lot during, before the Iraq War. So it seems like to me the mainstream media, meaning pretty much New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, and MSNBC, I mean those are the four leaders I would say, they have become this kind of a machine to attack conservatives and Republicans. Look, I supported Obama back in 2008 and 2012, but it was very tough for me to see an NYT or a WAPO article criticizing Obama, but I can see that very easily them attacking Trump. So don't you think there's a double standard?
No, I don't, and here's why. I think that the reason that that newspapers like the New York Times and the Washington Post were more critical of George Bush and of Donald Trump is because their policies were more controversial. Their policies were more debated. George Bush's decision to enter into 2 wars was terribly controversial.
But you remember back then the Democrats also supported it.
They did,
right?
And a lot of those Democrats who supported it, including Hillary Clinton, including Dianne Feinstein, were widely criticized in those newspapers. Obama was widely criticized in those newspapers about his efforts or his lack of efforts in steering the outcome of the Affordable Care Act. So I think he did less things that caused them, that was less controversial than George Bush and Trump did, and that's what the media does. They go after things that they think are controversial and newsworthy.
But probably it's because they align their policy a lot with Obama. That's how I see it. Like, for instance, I mean, just to give you an example, the New York Times, you know, the paper of record, the Gray Lady, as we say, their nicknames, they have not endorsed a Republican presidential candidate since 1956. New York Times, we're speaking. I mean, they claim to be, you know, down the middle. I really don't think they are down the middle. Even their straight news, whether it's a beat reporter writing or their Twitter accounts, or definitely the editorial, they definitely lean left. And if you check out Washington Post, one of the top 2 papers besides the New York Times, they have never endorsed a Republican presidential candidate. So to me, it seems like if I look at their columns or the editorials because I read them regularly, if we don't know that it's written by the New York Times or the Washington Post editorial, it sounds like a Democrat politician speech. If I just pull out the NYT on the top of the paper or the Washington Post, it sounds like a Democratic politician to me. So.
Well, I don't know that I agree with that. I would agree on the editorial side. One of the big challenges is that a lot of our news sources have moved more into editorializing the news. MSNBC, Fox, CNN, most of their programs have a definite perspective. It's not news,
without a doubt. It's
commentary. And I think we need to be careful about when you're watching Rachel Maddow, you're not watching a news person, a journalist, you're watching a commentator. When you watch Sean Hannity, you're watching a commentator. When you're reading the news, the editorial pages, you're reading an opinion. When you're reading the front page and the second page of the news, you should be reading news. And I do believe, and I do not believe that the news that are written in those papers or in the LA Times that you see on the front page has a liberal or a Democratic bent. So I think it's important to separate those.
Okay, when Trump criticizes fake news, for me, so I'm a person who always believed that there is a liberal slant. I know that you disagree, but I always believed that, even when I supported Obama back in the day. Recently, there was an interview by Donald Trump, President Trump. President Trump did an interview with Associated Press. I don't know whether you remember it. It happened a couple weeks ago. The title was Trump with quotes. This is the title of the interview piece. Trump, quote, "It's not my fault if the Republicans lose the House. It's not my fault. Don't blame me." Something in that line. I read the article, the transcript, the entire transcript. There was no comment. I mean, he did not blurt that word. He did not say, "Don't blame me if the Republicans lose the House."
He did say something. I saw him on. I saw an interview with him on television.
It was TV, but this is an Associated Press, AP interview article of Donald Trump. So it should be just it's not an opinion piece, right? You agree? But the title was Trump, "Don't blame me if the House loses" on the GOP side. But if you read the article, okay, the question was. The AP reporter, I don't know who the reporter was, but that person asked President Trump, do you take some blame? Do you take some responsibility if the GOP loses the House? And Donald Trump's answer was, I remember, he said, "No, I believe I'm actually helping them." So you can't translate that automatically to say Trump and quotation, "Don't blame me if the GOP loses." It sounds like a very irresponsible Republican president. That's the impression if you just read the title. So I think when Trump is criticizing those fake news, I think he's talking about those.
We do know, though, as an aside, we do know that Donald Trump never takes responsibility for anything. He never admits wrongdoing. But the one thing he does is Donald Trump is a persistent liar. He lies constantly. He lies about things he doesn't need to lie about. He just last week he said that Dianne Feinstein wrote an open borders bill that the Democrats are pushing, which is simply untrue. He said it at one of his rallies.
Did he say open borders bill? I don't remember.
Yeah, he said there's an open borders bill.
Okay.
It says that Dianne Feinstein's name is on it. He says things all the time. They're documentably untrue, and then the news call him on it, and he says it's fake news. It's calling you on your BS is not fake news.
So Jeffrey, when I see a lot of his rallies to check whether he's saying those or not, I think he used a lot of hyperbole, exaggeration. But when you look at the content of what he's trying to say, I don't consider that like lies. It's like he does exaggerate without a doubt, hyperbole all the time.
Oh,
he's that type of
well
person.
Beyond hyperbole.
when he refutes the mainstream media's articles or what broadcast pieces, I think there's a lot of legitimate things that he raises. For instance, okay, you remember, these days, okay, we're going back to, the political tension right now. It has, in your lifetime, has it been this
nothing ever like
polarized? It's nothing like it, right? So let's
see.
Fault
of Donald Trump, by the way.
Many people blame that. Probably he does. I would probably, blame him a little bit. But I think the media, and also look at what Cory Booker said recently. He said, "Get up in the face of some Congress people." You remember him saying that recently, right?
Yes.
At a Washington D.C. nonprofit group meeting. And also Maxine Waters always saying we got to impeach Trump. You get in their faces, and go to public places and talk to those Trump supporters and get in their faces and fight back. And you have Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton said recently, we can be civil after the Democrats win. To me, it sounds very, isn't this violence?
Of course, this is not violence. What they're saying, here's what's happening in the Democratic Party right now, is that...
go ahead.
This is not violence. This is simply...
Not violence, but it can kind of mean that way. It has an undertone of that. That's what I'm saying.
Well, President Trump and the Republicans have an undertone of violence in almost everything that they say. Democrats are saying, we are tired of being pushed around, we're playing the nice guy and we're losing, so we need to be more aggressive. We need to stop accepting stuff that the Republicans are saying that's BS, and we need to call them on it. We need to go to these Republicans who are climate deniers, who are supporting policies that encourage racism and we need to call them out and say that we're...
Like the difference of policies. Of course, racism-wise, I've never seen Trump or any Republicans. I met a lot of them. I went to the...
Not going to tolerate anymore.
Can't we... Did you go to the LA Politicon convention
No.
that happened? I went there. None of them supports racism or anything.
Donald Trump does.
I saw a lot of blacks there, too, who wore the MAGA hat, Make America Great Again hat. So to me, it seems like it was a narrative that the mainstream media...
But let's talk about Charlottesville, where he said...
he said both sides, right?
He was defending Nazis.
He didn't defend
both, because the other side were Nazis. It's okay to say that Nazis are bad people, and he won't even say that.
But how about the Antifa? You know Antifa. So he was criticizing both sides, right?
But Antifa wasn't the other side. It was people protesting white racists, and it was Nazis. And he said that they're both good people.
No, he was talking about Antifa too, because they were also holding bats and stuff. So but what I think that Trump was meaning we have radicals on both sides, not the Nazi. The Nazis thing. They had a rally again. They had some kind of group meeting. I think it was last year after the Charlottesville incident. I heard that less than 200 people showed up, and that was on like national level. So to me, I will tell you this. I have never met a Nazi in my entire life. I heard about it only on the news. So I think it seems like CNN and MSNBC is cooking up and trying to show that it's like a massive, it's like a massive base of Trump. I don't see that. I see it's a very tiny fringe, and I have never seen any of them in my entire life.
But it is a fringe. They support Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has said numerous things to be supportive of them. He
never said that he supported Nazi. Okay. What is a Nazi?
When the Nazis, there's many different types of Nazis that adhere to the fascist principles that still support Hitler's policies.
Okay, let's go to Hitler and Nazi. So Hitler is a Nazi, right? So Hitler and Nazi, who do they hate the most? The Jews, right? They hate the Jews the most. They killed 6 million people.
But they also hated the Poles. They hated homosexuals. They hated they hated gypsies. They hated Slavs.
But basically, when we think about Nazis,
they hated African Americans.
Of course, they hated all races, Asians and everybody other than Syrian, right? Okay. Donald Trump. Let's see Donald Trump, what he did to the Jews. I have never seen a president who's more pro-Jew than Donald Trump, I would argue. He moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. A lot of Jews come to me and say, he's the most pro-Jew president that we've ever had. So when people criticize him about a Nazi, to me it seems like, what world are they living in?
American Nazis tend to be anti-Jewish, but they're also anti-black, they're also anti-Latino, they're also anti-Asian.
But that's more KKK.
They're also
right? That's more in the line of KKK.
So you have KKK and Nazis who are all kind of part of this pool of right-wing fanatics. And at Charlottesville, you had KKK, you had Nazis, other right-wing conservatives who were protesting and beating up these...
Jeffrey, you know, when President Trump, I don't think the left even gave him a chance. You know, when you remember when he got sworn in, a whole bunch of protests happened in LA, Chicago, New York. You remember that, right? And also, you know, the ladies wearing that hat, pink hat, and protesting against President Trump. I remember what Madonna said. Madonna said she wanted to bomb the White House. Do you remember that?
No.
When she said that, she said those. And you know, you remember Robert De Niro, right? We have Robert De Niro back on our screen. He said that he wanted to punch He wanted to punch Trump, and he said, "F Trump." You know, F Trump. I will.
But Michael, if you go back 8 years, when Obama was sworn in, Mitch McConnell, right off the bat, says our entire goal is to keep him to one term. He never said let's put the election behind us. Let's work together as Democrats and Republicans.
That's a fair point.
So and the difference between Obama and Trump is that Trump was an aggressive, hostile, angry candidate.
I think,
and
I would say
it's hard to give him a chance.
If the Democrats would say like that, you know, we want to make sure that Trump is only a one-term president, I can take that. But when you say, like, we can only be civil after we win both, you know, win the Congress, you know, both the House and the Senate, like what Hillary did, it seems like this is really. It really has an undertone of violence. Hey, do something about it,
Michael,
not just by talking.
But these things that you just quoted,
action, right?
This is all lightweight stuff compared to what Republicans are saying, compared to what Ted Cruz says, compared to what John Bolton says, compared to what Donald Trump says.
Robert De Niro is a prominent actor, right? He's one of the most famous actors out there.
This is all white noise compared to what's coming from the Republicans.
I know you don't care about what entertainers say, right? I don't either. But you know, I know you told me before that you know, I mean, they don't know about politics.
They might know about politics. I mean, this is just a sideshow.
So it is a sideshow. I agree with you on that. But I have never seen like an entertainer say to Obama, "I'm going to say one thing, F Obama," or you know, in his case, you know, something like this. De Niro said, "F Trump." It's no longer down with Trump. It's F Trump. You know, these things.
Because most entertainers supported Obama. They don't support Trump. That's why they say people criticize people they don't like.
How about Joe Biden saying, you know, they asked me. This is what he said at the University of Miami to the crowds there. They asked me, would I like to debate this gentleman, meaning Trump? And I said no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. This is Joe Biden who said these kind of things.
How about the President of the United States saying he's okay with a Congress member body slamming a reporter?
That is true.
So, I mean, we can go back and forth on these little comments that different people made. But the truth is the Democrats may throw out a couple of inappropriate comments. Donald Trump makes these comments every single day and every single occasion.
To you, it seems like Trump invoking these. To me, it seems like people like Joe Biden is invoking these. That's why Trump is also saying body slam. Hey, if you guys want to talk like that, I don't know. I mean,
Joe Biden's comments come across like a holy person compared to Trump. Trump is an angry, vindictive guy who says all types of horrible things about people every day.
Do you think Trump's side are angry?
Pardon?
Do you think the Trump supporters and the Trump side are? Trump is an angry person.
I think there is a lot of. I think there's a lot of anger and frustration.
You don't see the Democrats. I'm not talking about local politicians. You know, I'm talking about on the national level. You don't see Maxine Waters or Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or you know, Joe Biden and even George Soros. You don't think they're angry? To me, they seem very angry.
They are angry in response to the things that Donald Trump and the Republicans are doing. They're feeling helpless about immigration, about national safety.
Policies, right? We know that there has been differences in policies, right?
Well, that's
so
what
can't we talk in a civil way? That's what I'm
so
asking.
let me put it this way. Donald Trump and the Republicans own the government right now.
Yeah, they do.
And they're beating up on the press. They're beating up on the Democrats. They're calling Mexicans and immigrants names. They've got an aggressive foreign policy. And instead, we're blaming the people who are out of power because they're frustrated because they're out of power. Let's blame the people who are in charge.
So when you were talking about climate change, you know, many people do believe it, but there are many people who don't. You know, some people
in charge of the country don't.
So some people believe that the scientists have also their own agenda. For instance, if you deny that there is a climate change or global warming, then the fund gets stopped. So they need to get these funds. I have some scientist friends off the record. You know, some of them did tell me those. So I think there is. It's not like the scientists are not political at all. I think they are. They can be political too. So climate change-wise, Trump is saying, okay, probably it might be true, but I don't want to sacrifice a manufacturing base that we have in the United States. I don't want factory workers to lose their jobs. To me, that seems to be more important than the climate change. We can't just bet on it to make them lose their jobs. And if you look at it, these jobs are not going anywhere. It would rather go to China or Mexico. So it's not like this job is disappearing. It's still there on Earth. So why is it always the United States putting all these restrictions and pretty much sanctions on ourselves? That's what that's his argument, and also
because we are supposed to be the leaders of the free world. We're supposed to set the example. And here's the challenge. So let's talk about climate science. The Earth is warming. The oceans are rising. Mass numbers of species are going extinct. Arable farmland is decreasing. We're having more hurricanes and weather events. Our farmland is being decreased. We have less water. So for your children and grandchildren, this Earth will be a much less hospitable place. So in order to keep those jobs today, we want to destroy the Earth?
I understand what you're saying.
Let's not do...
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. But what I'm saying is people in Michigan who lost their factories, so you are from Michigan, right? So you know these stories. So I don't think they will go in a bar and tell his friend after they lost their job, hey man, we did even though we lost our job, we're doing something good for the environment of the Earth. I don't think they're going to, bravo to that. So you know what I'm saying?
But the response should be from the president is, let's not burn more oil and coal. Let's create jobs in solar and technology to replace those jobs.
The solar jobs are not making a lot of jobs.
That's not true. There are many...
Solyndra? You know Solyndra, right?
There are tens of thousands of more jobs in solar today than there are in coal.
I do think that they are increasing, but I think there are a lot of the coal industry has been damaged, and also steel industry has all. I thought steel industry would disappear completely in America, but it's growing now ever since Trump came back. So I don't think those people can suddenly become solar geniuses, the people who lost their jobs.
No, of course not. We have to have a policy that lead people to be retrained and educated in new fields.
What I'm trying to say is, okay, let's talk about the Paris Accord. United States has to immediately abide by those laws.
So do the other
But other countries don't. If you look at it, China, Mexico, it doesn't kick in until 2030 or something like that. So they give these different standards. You know why? Because they're saying, oh, China, you guys, kind of hopped into the industrialized world later on, so we're going to give you some, some more leeway.
But China is very aggressively moving toward more sustainable.
I do know.
Whereas we're retreating, we're trying to go toward more coal and oil. China's actually going in the right direction. Shouldn't we be out in front of that instead of China?
But they're not.
How come we eliminate all these solar jobs to get more coal jobs?
So what I have never heard President Trump saying, I want to get rid of all the solar industry. He never said that. The thing
but he doesn't. He doesn't care about those jobs.
But
he doesn't care about the solar jobs.
So Jeffrey,
he cares about coal jobs.
You know about the difference, right? The subsidies, right? They get subsidies, right? What he's trying to say is trying to make it a more of a level, level playing field.
Well, we shouldn't be subsidizing coal. We should be subsidizing solar because we want more people to have solar to help clean the earth. We should be encouraging weeding this country off of coal because it's dirty and it's going to damage our planet and our health.
But we've been saying like solar. I remember back in the 80s. I remember because I went through some houses who had, solar panels. I don't think it's expensive too. It is still expensive after like decades.
But the statistics are, and forgive me, I don't have the actual numbers, but I think last I recall, there are roughly between 75,000 and 100 coal jobs in this country. There are close to 1 million jobs with solar. Solar is a much more important part of our economy. It is growing. It would have grown faster if it weren't for the tariffs they put on products from China, because a lot of these solar panels were built in China. But there were more jobs going into solar than into coal, and that should have been where we were putting our emphasis, not trying to restore a dirty industry.
Okay, so if we had to do that Paris Accord, I don't think we could, so ever since President Trump got elected, I don't know whether you know this because the mainstream media never covered this, but this is fact. 500,000 manufacturing jobs came back to the United States. This is clear fact. So I think I bet that he will get rewarded in 2020 because I have a lot of friends who live around there.
But we also, for every job that we create, we're also losing a bunch of jobs because of the expense of materials.
I don't think it affects the solar area.
Maybe
that's
not.
How I
maybe not solar.
We're talking about Rust Belt. So you think Rust Belt can become like a solar?
So there are businesses in the Midwest, traditional manufacturing, as more steel jobs go forward. There are other jobs that produce end products that import foreign materials. Those materials are now expensive, so it was a nail plant in Missouri that laid off half their employees because the materials got too expensive.
What would you tell your fellow Michigans who lost their jobs in the automobile industry? You know those. You go there.
Sure.
In Detroit. I went to Detroit. It was almost a decade ago. It looked like a ghost town to me. That it was the impression that I got. But they had a GM auto show, but that was the only shiny thing there. Everything else looked really, really doomed, to me. So Trump is trying to reviving that area. And think about the people who lost their jobs. I don't think they can all of a sudden overnight become an IT genius. I don't think they can even go to the service sector. I don't think they can even go to the IT sector. I don't think they can even go to the solar or wind sector.
But nothing changes overnight. Everything requires time. Everything requires investment.
In the meantime, they are still living.
In the meantime, he's shutting down those jobs, one type of job, in order to promote jobs like coal, which is just absurd.
So what you are saying is sometimes we have to sacrifice. That's what you're saying, right? Ultimately, you have to sacrifice those jobs for the future.
There is no, you cannot have a impactless policy. There is, when you are converting from one type of economy to another type of economy, there is going to be a transition period, and some people will do better than others.
So are you against Trump bringing all these manufacturing jobs back? He so far brought back 500,000.
No, that's
do you think they should go back?
But I'm
just wondering.
That's a bad question, though. Am I against jobs? No, I'm not against jobs.
No, I'm talking
I'm
about,
against the policies that he has behind
I'm talking about the big picture-wise.
So
he's going backwards. That's what you're saying, right?
He is going backwards. So here's where he's going backward. He's going backward on clean energy.
How about the people who got jobs?
He's going backward on clean energy. He's going backward on policy with these on policies that encourage trade with these tariffs.
Did you see this world map? Okay.
And at the end, his policies will result in a net loss of jobs. We may get a lot of steel jobs, but we're going to lose a lot of manufacturing jobs that depend on foreign parts to manufacture.
To me, manufacturing, without manufacturing, I think the country gets lost later on. I mean, even steel is directly related to defense. For instance, if America loses its ability to build steel, and got to import from, for instance, China, because China is so big in steel right now. What if wartime happens and they don't? Hey, we're not going to sell it to you. What are we going to do? Are we going to suddenly open up? It's too late by then. So I think just even for that sense, for security-wise, national security-wise, we need to have those basic industries keep healthy, like manufacturing, steel.
That principle
has to be there.
Those are sound principles. The way that the president is doing it is not sound. Everything for him is a zero-sum game. And in policies, it's complex, it's nuanced, and not everything has to be winners versus losers. We cannot simply detach ourselves from the rest of the world. We particularly should not be investing our money in things that are harming the planet and harming our health. Coal is not good for the earth.
Okay, but I do think in Pennsylvania, the coal industry, steel industry, and the manufacturing industry has been picking up ever since Trump went into office. And also, I recently saw a world map about which area air is clean and not. I saw the North American side of the map. It was cleaner compared to other areas, like China. Right. So I believe that we're probably doing better than China. China, I used to live in South Korea. The sky is polluted because of China.
But the problem is that those are countries that are moving in the right direction. We're moving in the opposite direction. We're moving back to coal while China is moving away from coal. We should be on the same page as China and other countries. That's why we should stay a part of the Paris Accord, to make sure that the whole world is moving in the right direction instead of backward. Yeah. Because we have to be very alarmed at what the quality of life is going to be for those. You and I will, well, at least I will be gone before when this world starts getting dangerous to live in. But by the end of this century, the population is going to be impacted due to water, due to pollution, due to radiation coming from the from the sun, and we have to protect the earth.
So you and I, we are having a civil discussion, right? But I'm talking about we should at least keep it at a civil discussion, civil level. But we are seeing so many people protesting. You saw people using even violence against political opponents. I mean, on
like at Trump rallies.
Protesting. Trump rally, it didn't happen for a while. It happened back in the campaign days. But even that, it was Bernie supporters who went there. And you remember Steve Scalise, the congressman who got shot? They shot this crazy man who was a Bernie supporter, he went to the baseball field and shot crazy.
Well,
he was shooting
crazy,
and Steve Scalise almost lost his life because of that.
But if we want,
was more on the. I think Republicans were more on the receiving end.
Absolutely untrue. If we want to do a tit for tat, we want to put together all the acts of violence done by conservatives and versus Democrats, Republicans win by a multitude of five.
During the Trump era.
And Donald Trump
Aren't they more on the receiving end?
No, absolutely not.
You see a lot of people.
Absolutely not.
You see a lot of people beating up Trump supporters
no,
on the streets. I saw it all the time.
You may have seen one, but what you see all the time are Trump supporters and KKK and Nazis beating up liberals.
How about like Ted Cruz and his wife Heidi trying to go to the Washington D.C., their favorite joint, and trying to have a
violence.
Dinner, but they screamed them out. But I think that is not a civil behavior. It is not. I think that behavior is uncalled for. That's how I see it.
So what about all? But what you never talk about, Michael, is the president's constant assault on people in virtually every speech, everything that comes out of his mouth. He calls people horrible names.
So, like, for instance, Hillary?
Whether it be Nancy Pelosi or Hillary or Obama
because they attacked
or
first.
Brennan.
Because
no, they didn't attack first.
And you know
they
what?
criticized him for rightfully because they disagree with his policies. But he never says I disagree with the policies. He calls them names. He's like a child.
Because Obama, pretty much, I think when you're a former president, I think he ought to be a little bit more quiet than how he is right now. That has been the tradition. George W.
But we
Bush,
never had a crazy man in the White House
Bush
before.
Was quiet.
We all have an obligation to speak out against injustice.
Yeah, but President Trump, his policy, I don't see there's anything really that problematic. I mean, people say that he's this crazy man. I don't see that. Probably his rhetoric is a little bit stronger than other politicians. But it's more of a reactionary thing. It's more of a reactionary thing.
His rhetoric is pathological. It's not normal.
So
it is unbalanced.
I have never seen Trump saying, get in their faces.
He never said that. He doesn't say get in their faces. He personally gets in their faces. He does it himself. He doesn't ask other people to do it.
So that's
he himself does it. It's
not fair. When did he get into somebody's face?
There's a difference between somebody criticizing the president for things that they disagree with and the things that he says, whether it is his comments about women and grabbing their whatever.
That was not when he was a president. That was like 13 years ago.
But Michael, that's who he is. He is still that same person. He still speaks like that. He may not say that specific case, but his
but nobody came out and
just in the last few months when he encouraged a congressional candidate to body slam somebody and said he would defend him in court.
He didn't condone. He said that he didn't persuade them to do it, but he said that was
he applauded it and offered to pay for his attorney's fees.
I don't remember him saying that. It was more of a joking way. I saw that rally when he was saying, this guy is my man. He slammed the press.
It's not a joke. That's the way he
talks. Was more of
he
put it more of a metaphorical, feeling to it. Because you know that he hates the press. But of course, we should not do what he did. And probably President Trump should have been a little bit more careful when he said that. I would tell you.
He should be more careful on what he says most of the time.
If you look at all the other politicians saying, look at Eric Holder. When they go low, we kick him. This is Eric Holder we're speaking. The former AG, Attorney General saying this?
He was joking.
He was not joking.
If you're going to give,
when they go low, we kick them. I saw him. His face looked damn serious.
If you are going to give Donald Trump credit for joking, and Donald Trump never jokes, then you got to give Eric Holder credit for joking as well.
So we're on par with that one. All right, okay. Got it. Okay, well, that's our show for today. Our show is not about left or right, it's about right or wrong. To stay up to date with our latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.